Good evening. Tonight on Fluffyshotme Photography, we're going to be speaking with Andy Crawford. He is a photographer from Louisiana. He's grown up basically in the sportsman's paradise, fishing, and he specializes in, well, many things, but one of his unique specialties is swamp photography. So please welcome Andy Crawford. How are you doing tonight, Andy?
I'm doing pretty well, Dave. How are you?
Oh, all right. So, tell me a little bit about yourself just to start out with.
Well, I have, like you say, I've grown up in South Louisiana and been in the swamp since I was a kid, fishing mostly, and I spent about 18 years, I guess, working for Louisiana Sportsman magazine, and I'm a trained writer, and so most of that time I was a writer who used photography to support the writing, and over time. I've always had an interest in photography, and over time, the interest in photography sort of overtook my interest in writing, and here I am now, a full-time photographer who does a little bit of writing to add to the bottom line, but that's about it, And so I get to travel the country. I work with Bassmaster.com, covering their bass tournaments all over the country, and that affords me the opportunity to put a lot of miles on my truck
Right.
and a lot of air miles, but I get to go to places that I've always wanted to go to, and I shoot while I'm out. But when I'm home, I want to be in the swamps, and so the swamps is where I'm really comfortable. I love to get out and slosh about in the muck, and I know that's your favorite, Dave,
Mm.
and really and sort of really get into it and shoot just the beauty of the swamp. And so that's really where I've focused the last 5 or 6 years
Okay.
is my landscape photography, along with that bass tournament work, and I just love it. It's something that I can go out and my wife doesn't understand this sometimes, but it's where I relax. It's my happy place behind the camera.
Oh, I get that totally. I don't see it in the swamp.
Well, I mean, Dave, look, I have invited you many times
Yes,
to
you
come,
have. Yes,
and
you
and I've
have.
got a boat, and we can get out in the swamps, and you can hop out with me, and we can slosh around with the gators.
I got no problem hopping out.
What's the problem?
Problem is I can't get back in the boat.
Well, I mean, we can probably look if you see one of those alligators swimming by. I bet you'll find a way to get back
Put
in
me
that
on a
boat pretty
stringer
quick.
and just troll me back.
It's funny. I've never really had a problem getting out of the boat and sloshing around, and I started doing some night photography out in the swamps. And the first time I went, I left the house about 9 p.m. and told my wife I'm going to be gone all night. Don't wait up for me. I'll be back. And she said, "Do not get out of the boat." And I laughed at her, and I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And she begged me, and finally, pretty much just to humor her. I had no intention of honoring this. I said, "Okay, Yvette, I won't get out of the boat." And so I'm sitting there waiting on the sun to go down. Already set up, had some trees I was going to light
Hmm.
up, and I had my feet hanging over the side of the boat. It was really nice. It was warm enough. I didn't even need waders. And about the time the sun got behind the horizon, I heard this huge splash next to the bank about, I don't know, about 30, 40, 50 yards from
Hmm.
me. And I thought to myself, well, that sounded pretty big. And then the sun goes down, and I start looking around. I turn my light on, and there are these little lights swimming around in the water. There were eyes all over the place, and I quickly pulled my feet back into the boat, and worked from the platform of my boat the rest of the night. So yeah. I do get to go in their backyard, and so I respect them.
All right. You sent me a couple of photos to talk about. Which one did you want to look at first?
Let's look at. Do you have clouds in the morning?
Yes, I got it up.
Okay. All right.
And where was this taken?
That was taken at Lake Morefield.
Okay.
That, in fact, was where it's my favorite sunrise spot. Okay.
Yeah.
I know. It's on the edge of Lake Morefield, right on the swamp, and those cypress trees are in about waist deep water. And so it makes, and the bottom is really hard, and it makes it easy to move around and set up. It's actually where that story about the alligators and me pulling my feet back in the boat happened, later after I took the shot. It's just a magical place. I use a program that I know you know about, photographers, ephemerists, to know where the sunrise is coming up. Right. I know exactly where the sunrise is coming up. And when I took that one, I set that shot up, an hour before the sun came up, knowing exactly where the sun was going to rise. And when it popped over the horizon, it was right there where the app told me. And so it was just a glorious morning. Had that. I wasn't really sure, Dave. It's interesting, if you see those clouds on the horizon, I wasn't sure that we'd get much light until it popped. The sun popped over the clouds, and man, it just turned out gorgeous. Yeah. So it's really one of my favorite sunrise photos. And in fact, it's hanging right over there on this wall.
It's probably one of my favorites of your work too, actually.
I appreciate it. It was a really, really beautiful morning. It was still, not a lot of wind, and so I could get that detail in those in the silhouettes of the trees, but also get that beautiful
And what was
color.
The name of the app you used?
It's Photographers Ephemeris.
So just to be clear, we're not sponsored by Photographers Ephemeris, but if they would like, call us.
Yeah. I use that almost everywhere I go. Particularly for sunrises and sunsets. It's a great app to download and use for. Because I went back. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months after that, and the sun rose way off to the right of where it is in that photo, and it was way behind all of the swamp, and so that photo wasn't even possible. So it allows me to sort of plan and know what's going on.
Cool. All right, so do you want to look at Cajun camp life next?
Yeah, man. Throw that one up there.
Oh, yeah. Now, I know that you don't necessarily want to, give people totally behind the scenes, but how in the world do you take a photo like that at night in the swamp?
Well, so I initially started this project, not this photo, but the project of night photography in the swamps using a flashlight, using a big flashlight. And Dave, I know you know about light painting is what they call it, and I've seen it done, and it's very effective when you do it right. The problem is there's a lot of hunting and pecking. You paint it, and and you look, and you try again, and you look, and you might take a lot of frames to get a good one. And honestly, I don't mind sharing. I mean, the key to this shot, this was a 1-frame shot. I mean, I probably took 3 shots of it, and 2 of those were just security to make sure I was in focus, honestly. And so what I did is I went out and got there. That's at sunset, so you can see the last of the sunset in the background. I went out 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours before sunset. I found the camp, located what I wanted to do, and it took more time to figure out the angle I wanted to shoot than it did to really shoot the shot. Once I found that tree, I was like, oh yeah, that tree is going to work. And so my initial thought is I was just going to light up the tree, and then I started looking at the camp, and I was like, I like that camp. And so what I did is pretty simple. I took two LED screens, two LED panels, and I've got one panel on the dock of that camp, just off camera to the left, and it's way off, and so it's pretty dim, but it was enough, and I've got it on the camp. That's all it's lighting up, and then I've got a second one that's just camera right, that's lighting the tree.
I got you.
And once the sun started going down, I let the sun get behind the horizon really well, and still had that little bit of kiss of sunset. And I had already gone and turned on the light at the camp, went over, turned my light on at the tree, and I had pre-focused. My camera sat for probably 2 hours on the tripod, just sitting there waiting.
Oh wow, okay.
And I took the shot, and I was done.
Are you on dry ground, a boat, or are you in the water?
No, I was on a boat. I could have gotten out there. It's very, very shallow right there. I was digging mud with my boat. Okay. But again, that was probably in May. I think it was January, but it was a warm January. So I don't know if it was cold and I didn't want to get out of the boat, or if it was warm. It was a warm day, and so I don't know. I probably was worried more about the swimming lizards, and even though in January they're usually not a problem. But yeah, I just sat in the boat, and I had my boat pegged in place with a couple of we call them Cajun anchors, and so had it held firmly so it wouldn't knock up against the camera, and just sat there and waited.
Oh, okay. So the camera's not in the boat; it's actually out in the mud.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, I put the tripod is standing in the water.
I gotcha.
And yeah, and the water, like I say, the water there's probably, I don't know, it's probably knee deep or so, and so it just sat there on the tripod, and because it is a long exposure, because the LED light I'm using one now looks bright. I know it's giving a glare on my bald head. But when it comes to shooting this kind of stuff, it's not very bright, and so it takes a little bit of takes a couple of seconds for it to soak in.
I gotcha. Well, that's pretty cool, man. You nailed that one.
Well, I appreciate it. It's a neat one. It hangs in my house.
Oh yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Which print media did you go with?
Metal, man. I have really. I use Bay Photo, and they do a satin metal that is fantastic, man. And so I've got it on metal. I actually had it in the house and right here above my desk, and I gave one of them away for a donation for a
charity.
Charity. Yeah, thank you. And so. The guy walked in and said, "Oh, I want that." I told him he could have pretty much anything in my studio. And when he walked in, I said, "Oh," he said, "What about that one?" I went, "I knew you were going to ask that," and so I poured it, but I didn't want to. It's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so Spirit of the Swamp.
Yeah. That is. It's just a simple photo. I mean, it really is, and I don't know why. I just love it, and it's probably one of the most popular swamp shots I've taken in a while. The name Spirit of the Swamp actually came from a naming contest that I conducted on my Facebook page.
Yeah,
and man, it went crazy. I mean, people just really loved it, and there were all kinds of great names being recommended. But But I took that late last year with James Easton from over your way, yeah. And he came over, and I took him out in the swamp, and that was probably, we took a lot of great photos, but that's my favorite from that shoot. And so it's just, it's that pretty autumn color. We don't have seasons. We have 3 days of winter and summer. And so the only fall color we get are in the cypress when they turn golden, and in that very short November period. And so it's just a really beautiful image against that. We had the perfect cloud cover,
yeah.
And the trees got some character. And so it's really, I love that shot. And for somebody who grew up in the swamp, that, man, when you see that, you're in the Louisiana swamp, And it's really funny. When I shared it out, one of my buddies, who's he's a big fisherman down here. He was one of the first to comment and said, "I know exactly where that tree is, and there's a 4-pounder," talking about a 4-pound bass sitting on it. And it was one of the trees that he fished all the time. And so it's really, I hate to use the word because it makes me sound big-headed, but it's like an iconic Louisiana swamp image, So it's really become one of my favorites.
Okay, that's cool. It's home,
It's home. It's home. I love, Dave. Golly, I love to go everywhere else. And it's really interesting that for years I wanted to shoot everywhere else. I wanted to see the mountains. I wanted to see waterfalls. I wanted to see the Southwest. I wanted to see the Rockies. And shoot all of that stuff. And I can remember about 4, maybe 5 years ago, sitting in my office lamenting the fact that I couldn't be in the Smoky Mountains shooting a waterfall. And it occurred to me, you idiot, you've got, incredible beauty right here. You just have to, and I have a boat. You just have to get out and take it. And so, that's really been my inspiration, is really getting out and doing what a lot of people do. Because where I'm taking these photos, Dave, that you don't walk up to from the land and take them.
No,
of
course
not. If Dave Morefield never comes with me and hops in my boats, he ain't never going to see
I'll
those
step
places.
in there gently. I don't want to knock a hole.
No, you won't knock
we
a hole.
Put
but
some Flex Seal on
it. Yeah, that's right. Flex Seal, man, you can float anything. I really have an advantage that I have a boat, and so I get to see places and shoot places that very few photographers, have the privilege to. And so it's one of the things that I'm really making an effort of doing, is when I'm home, making the time to get out and get back in the swamp. And when I'm most stressed, which I'm sure is the same for most people, is when I'm in the office. Even though I'm still working on photography, I get stressed. My wife glares at me because I'm in a bad mood and I'm tired of being at home. I've got about 3 days I can be at home, and I'm trying to go somewhere. Right. And I can leave the office. A lot of these places, there's zero cell signal, none. And you don't hear, unless a boat runs by you, you don't hear any evidence that there's another human on the earth. And man, it's fantastic. And Dave, the swamp at night is incredible if you can handle the mosquitoes. That's the only thing. The mosquitoes, you could stay in a boat and stay away from the alligators. The mosquitoes, they like the boat too.
Yeah, the time that I have spent in the swamp, I had to wrap my mouth so that they didn't get in my mouth.
I'll tell you this photo that's in the background here, which is always in the running for one of my favorites. It was taken the same area as Spirit of the Swamp,
Okay.
and the same lake. It's like the geographic center of the Chaffalot Basin. And I went out, left the house 9:30 or so,
Mm-hmm.
and took that photo probably 11:30, something like that. I had planned and really prepped for this thing and put permethrin, treated my clothes with permethrin, which, hey, it is supposed to keep mosquitoes away.
Yeah, they eat it down there.
Yeah, dude, I kid you not. I treated it, I let it dry just like the so that I didn't get cancer or whatever it gives you. I would rather the cancer, dude. I'm telling you, they hit me, and they were eating through that clothes, through all of that treated clothing. Yeah. And it took me about 3 or 4 layers of deep wood off to keep them sort of at bay, and they were still just a constant buzz around me, man. They're something, but there's just something about being out there, man. It's so
You're really
quiet
selling
and
it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the mosquitoes they can be a bit of a challenge, but if you don't like getting bit by a mosquito, that's probably not your bag.
It'll be fun, they said.
But yeah, it'll be fun, they said. Yeah. But once you get the mosquitoes at bay, once you get enough dope on you, it's just quiet. You hear the fish and the alligators or whatever splashing. Every now and then you'll hear a bird, croaking or calling or flapping. Sure. It's just beautiful. And I mean, you can't really tell it, on what you're seeing, but there's the Milky Way is not as vivid as we saw out in right. Utah, but you can see the Milky Way out there. And I had not seen the Milky Way like that since I was a kid. And so it's just, man, that's my happy place. I mean, the swamps are my happy place. And so I try to get out there and disconnect. And in fact, I'm sort of, planning a trip for the next few days to get out there.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So once you get a killer shot, are you going to have another naming contest?
We're going to be doing naming contests periodically. I do giveaways, and so the best way to get in on the giveaways is sort of monitor my Facebook page, and you can actually sort of visit my site, and you'll be pulled in with the magic of cookies, and and yeah, I know people hate cookies, but there are some advantages to them, and go ahead.
Unless they're Girl Scouts. Girl Scout cookies, that's different.
Yeah. But yeah, if you monitor my Facebook page, you'll see announcements for giveaways. We've got one going on right now, and so we're going to keep those up, and it's a good way just to sort of broaden the audience and give back to the audience. I've got a really fun, engaged Facebook audience, and, cool. And so it's always good to be able to send out a free.
Yeah,
program.
Absolutely. So what's next for you? Where are you headed?
Well, I'm going to hit the swamps for sure. I was supposed to be in Alabama for a Bassmaster event, but current news issues, have sort of put a damper on that. I don't. I guess the short answer is, in light of what's going on right now with the coronavirus scare, I'm not sure when my tournament's going to kick up again. I had plans, man. I was going to stop in Cloudland Canyon in Georgia on the way to Tennessee. I was going to hit a state park up there and shoot some waterfalls, all surrounded. I really sort of suspect that it's going to be probably June before I get to do a lot of traveling. My wife and I have a sort of working vacation plan to the Nantahalas, and I'm hoping I get to make that. But as long as things settle down a little bit, I'm supposed to spend 3 weeks in upstate New York in late July and August. And I'm actually considering driving that and just staying up there, because 2 weeks later I got to be in Detroit, and so I might spend about 4 or 5 weeks in that region.
It's about an 8-hour drive for you, right?
No, it's funny, Dave. I've sort of gotten to where I guess I'm getting old. I almost do the speed limit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't push it much unless I've been gone a lot and I'm really ready to be home. I'll push it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. One of the fun things is I get to see a lot of the country, Dave. One of the real challenges, I get to drive a lot of the country, and so when I started the whole travel deal, about 8 hours was my limit, and I got really tired after that. And now about 12 or 13, and I can push it farther if I want to. I don't often want to because it starts hurting. But yeah, it's one of the pitfalls of travel photography is you have to travel. You have to drive.
Right.
So I put a lot of miles on my truck. And but I get to see a lot of great things, and I wouldn't have it any other way. The best thing I did, Dave, as much as I enjoyed the writing side of things, and it afforded me to meet a lot of great people and do a lot of things and get paid for that others would die for. One of the best things I've done is switch to photography. The income is not as consistent, for sure. But I'm content. I love what I do, and when I go somewhere and see something new and get to shoot something new, it's amazing. I get to spend most of my time in the outdoors. Whether I'm on a boat shooting, Bassmaster tournaments, or whether I'm shooting, landscape nature photography, I get to spend time in the outdoors and really spend time in God's creation. And it's pretty amazing. God created a lot of things for us to enjoy. And I truly believe we get too caught up in work and life and modern life, and we don't spend enough time unwinding and reconnecting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm getting out in the swamp at night in the water.
I mean, come on, Dave. Come on, Dave. I mean, look, I have grown to the point where I won't get out of the boat at night, because that's when they really come out.
Yeah.
Not only do they come out to eat, and so I grew up.
I'm like a family meal. You're just a little Happy Meal. There's a difference.
I don't have to outswim everybody,
just
Dave.
Me.
I just have to outswim you. Yeah. I mean, I grew up around them, and so sometimes I feel like I'm a little immune to them. I don't notice them a lot of times. In fact, I've got one photo of an alligator in my gallery. One, because I don't think I really don't think a lot about them. I need to remedy that. But one thing I do is respect them.
Sure.
And if you don't respect an alligator, you'll get in trouble. So you don't do the Yellowstone thing where you go up and pet one. You might do that once.
It might happen once, and that's about it.
That'd be about it. So.
All right. Well, Andy, I appreciate you joining me tonight and kind of talking about your passion. It's I really like what you do out in the swamp. I admire it. I don't necessarily feel a need to jump out of a boat out in the swamp, but maybe one of these days I'll go out there with you.
All right. Well, you got a standing invite, and so I appreciate you having me on and let me share my passion for the swamps
absolutely.
And for outdoors. All right, buddy.
All right. Well, I hope you have a good night, man.
All right. You too.
All right. We'll chat with you later.
All right, man.
And that was Andy Crawford. And if you want to follow him on Facebook, it's down in the description, and you can get involved in his naming contests and follow his work. And who knows, maybe one of these days I'll actually go out in the swamp and enjoy him. So until next time, have a good evening.